Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Society. We are grateful to gather on this beautiful morning, both in person and online, for a time of inspiration, reflection, and connection. Whether you join us today with joy in your heart, weighted with burdens, or searching for meaningful connections, we are glad that you are here. I'm the Reverend Diana Smith, the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a somewhat tall white woman in my mid-40s with short, curly, white and brown hair, purple glasses and a purple dress, and a very colorful stole. I'm in UUS's pulpit at the front of our sanctuary, which is gradually filling with people of all ages, and through the window walls of our sanctuary, we connect with the outdoors, where it is a pretty seasonal gray winter day. As we gather, we give thanks for this land and all who have cared for it over the centuries, particularly the Kickapoo, the Iowa, the Sauk and Meskwaki, and the Oceti-Sakowin nations. As people of many ages, genders, races, sexual orientations, classes, abilities, and health statuses, we know how important it is to come together as a radically welcoming spiritual community. As Unitarian Universalists, our faith expresses our core value of love through how we agree to be together and to support each other. We're guided by the shared principles, sources, and values of our living religious tradition. And this morning, we'll be exploring a slightly different side of our source of the mystery and wonder that renews our spirits and helps us be open to the forces that create and uphold life. We'll be exploring the spirituality and science of taking risks and celebrating how we learn from our mistakes. If you're newer to our congregation, we invite you to learn more about us after the service. If you're here in person, there will be greeters in the atrium. And for those of you who are online, there is a link to a visitor form in our YouTube show notes that will let us connect with you. And now, I share with you some words from the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage, who writes, "As people of faith and wonder, we welcome in the delight of mystery, the awe of unfolding adventures, the expansiveness of what it means to behold mystery as a gift to the imagination. Too often we relax into routines, find comfort in old habits, and give in to the confines of our lives. In this time of worship together, may our hearts be nudged open to what may be. May our spirits be wrapped up in curiosity to seek mystery and welcome her in. May our time together this day remind us to stay open, stay inquisitive of what we do not yet understand, and be inspired to stretch ourselves into new ways of being. Welcome, mystery. Welcome into our hearts and our time of worship together." And so as we begin our service, let's join our voices in singing Light One Candle. Kay Winder in Xinhui Lu will lead us. This is number 221 in your hymnal, and the words will be up here.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children with their thanks that the light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. But light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our song in our heart. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep it alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far and always believing that justice would somehow prevail? This is the burden, and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears.
Good morning. I'm Emily Johnson. I'm a worship associate. My pronouns are she, her. As Unitarian Universalists, we light a flame within a chalice as a symbol of sanctuary and safety to unite us in our worship and to remind us of our ongoing search for the light of truth. Please join me in saying our chalice lighting words as Simo lights our chalice. Come on. Simo's wearing a very cool astronaut tie today. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the wonder and mystery of this great gift. So let us now kindle the flame of our liberal religious heritage and renew our covenant of mutual love and care. Love is our doctrine, the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to serve those in need. This we promise, this we covenant with life and one another. We are in the season of Advent, a time of practicing expectation for the sort of miracle that ruptures what we think is possible. The season of Advent celebrates light as the days darken in the Northern Hemisphere and shares a ritual lineage with Jewish celebrations of the miraculous light of Hanukkah and pagan celebrations of the coming winter solstice. For some, the waiting we practice this month is for the birth of Jesus. For some, it is waiting for the light of Hanukkah. And for some, it is waiting for the longest night and the rebirth of the sun. And so December becomes a holy month of waiting, a pause of anticipation and mystery. The Sundays of Advent traditionally carried different messages. The first one last week carried the message of hope. Today, the message is about peace. As we light this candle of peace, we share love with all of our Jewish friends who began their celebration of Hanukkah at sundown on Thursday, and we send out our prayers and hopes for an end to the war in Gaza. As I light this candle, let's hold a time of silence.
Hey, I am going to be reading a book from right here today. If you want to look at the book, you're welcome to come on up here. We're going to have the slides on the screen, as always. It looks like I may be alone. Maybe not. Okay. So today, we're going to be talking about how we learn to take risks, including how we learn from our mistakes. So anybody up here or even out there, how does it feel to take risks? Maybe not so great. Any words for how it feels to take risks? Scary? Yeah. Weird? Weird. Yeah. Wild? Yeah. Feels like lots of these things. Another word that I sometimes think of so those are some really good words. So how about when we make a mistake? How do you feel when you make a mistake? Any ideas, any words for when we make a mistake? Maybe feeling sad. We might feel sad. We might feel a little when we make a mistake too. Might feel scary. Sometimes a word that comes up is feeling shame. And because of all these big feelings that come up when we make mistakes, it can be hard to learn from them and to do things differently, right? And sometimes that's even harder when we behaved in a way that we didn't want to, because we were angry with someone, or because we didn't know how something we did was going to affect someone else. And that can make it hard to take risks or do things differently, or to ask for something that we need. And so today our story is about a little chick who learned from a mistake that she made when she was angry, and then took some risks to create some important changes for herself and her friends. And it's about some important lessons that her community learned about how we support each other. So shall we read her story? Yeah, okay, I think so. Alrighty. More Than Fluff by Madeline Valentin. Daisy happened to be very fluffy. That's a pretty fluffy chick. Being fluffy was all anyone noticed about her. "Oh, aren't you the cutest thing? I could just eat you up. Adorable." Those are things everybody says about her. There we go. They squeezed her, they petted her, they kissed her. Oh, that fluffy Daisy. They popped up out of nowhere, and they tried to hug her. It ruffled Daisy's feathers. Only back at home could Daisy relax. Why do I have to be so soft? I'm not just fluff. I have substance. But what's going to happen? A little one comes along. What about a smooch? Oh no, everybody wants to touch her. Oh. Okay, there we go. Something had to change. Daisy decided the time was right for a new look. What is she gonna do? It was spectacular! Whoa, I think everybody else is shocked too. But it was also pretty icky. A bit sticky and super stinky. And by the end of the day, Daisy was right back where she started. Oh no, they're even chasing her now. Daisy couldn't take it anymore. She's being caught and touched, and what did she just do to that turtle? It looks like she pecked its nose. Oh no, I am more than fluff, Daisy yelled. Well, Mom decided to have a talk. Daisy, honey, I know you're angry, but you cannot peck others. But everybody cuddled me, and when I don't want them to. Mom says, Have you tried telling them how you feel? Nicely? Daisy hatched a plan. "It's time for your afternoon cuddle," said the goose. "Actually, it's time for you to give me some personal space," said Daisy. But I wouldn't mind a wing bump instead. And here's the squirrel. Daisy says, "I don't want a hug, but thanks for offering. It's good to see you." With a little practice, Daisy got the hang of letting everyone know what she wanted. Everyone learned to give Daisy some space when she wanted it, and she did the same for them. "Aw," says Daisy, "can I give you a hug?" The little bug says, "Nope, no hug. Don't want a hug." "I understand," says Daisy. Daisy happened to be fluffy, and that suited her just fine. And Mom says, "Would you like me to read you a story before bed?" "Yes, please. I'd also love a good night hug and a kiss, if you would," says Daisy. "Oh, Daisy, I'm always happy to give you a hug and a kiss." "Thanks, Mom." And that's the end of our story. Now, one of the things that I find interesting about learning from mistakes and taking risks is that while it can be really hard to accept that we made a mistake, acknowledge it, and learn from it, and while it can feel hard to take risks, after we do, we often feel better. I noticed that that happened for Daisy and her friends in this story. Did anyone else notice that? Yeah. Well, that's our story for today, and now we are going to light our lantern and sing our children who would like to go to our religious education classes. And if you would like, and you're a child or a youth, you can also stay in here with your family. All right. Is anybody, who's lighting this lantern with me? Are you lighting the lantern? Okay.
Take with you the flame from our chalice. Take with you the light and the hope. Take with you the blessing and love. Explore your faith and grow. Take this flame as you go. Take with you the flame from our chalice. Take with you the light and the hope. Take with you the blessings and love. Explore your faith and grow. Take this flame as you go.
Okay. And now I'd like to invite up Liz Swanson to give us an update on our stewardship campaign.
Thank you, Reverend Diana. Good morning. Liz Swanson, in my mid-70s, in one of my favorite colors, black. The story in our family is that when our daughter moved back from Orlando, she said, "Mom, I'm going to get you out of black." I said, "Good luck." So it's obvious it didn't work. I would like to update you, and I know that members of the Stewardship Committee have been before you a lot, but we got feedback that we weren't updating the congregation sufficiently enough. So here I am. We have now 160 pledges in. We have a total with the match, $300,069, $174, and still 90 cents. It's about 92% of our goal. So we're really, really hopeful that we will make the goal of 400,000 because we know that December, January, and February, we still get pledges in. So thank you all. Thanks everybody for working to get us to this point of 92.2%. Thanks.
How we give, what we do with our lives, our time, and our resources is a reflection of our values. To live out our mission, values, and principles, each week's Sunday offering goes to an organization in the community that this congregation has chosen to support. Our community partner agency this month is the Free Dental Clinic, which has served the local community for over 50 years. Dentists, dental students, dental hygienists, and dental hygiene students volunteer to provide exams, treatment plans, cleanings, fillings for cavities, and simple tooth extractions for adults and children who would not otherwise have access to care. In the sanctuary, the ushers will collect the offering, or you can follow the instructions on the screen for how to give online. All cash contributions go directly to our community partner agency. You may use the memo line of a check or the online giving portal to designate a contribution to the community partner agency, your annual pledge, or additional operating expenses. As we conduct the offering, we also recognize the many non-financial contributions that keep our congregation running and that members of our congregation provide to the broader community. Your support, in whatever form it takes, makes a meaningful difference. Mysteries, Yes, by Mary Oliver. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of the lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance, always, from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, "Look," and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. Whether you come from delight or the scars of damage, or maybe a little of both, we now enter the time of comfort of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. We acknowledge the joys and sorrows of our congregation by inviting those present to choose a stone to drop into a bowl of water, symbolically immersing our personal joys and sorrows into the flow of all life's joys and sorrows. The water surrounds and holds the stone, just as we are surrounded and held by the love and support of this congregation. If you're participating in our service elsewhere, you may wish to meditatively hold a stone, wash your hands, or meditate on an object near you. And now, if you're in the sanctuary, please come forward, take a stone from one of the baskets, and place your stone in the water as we sing together.
is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
Spirit of love, Spirit of life, and this morning, yet another morning when we find ourselves holding multitudes in this gathering across the distances. May we find our hearts opening to the presence of mystery in our lives, to wonder, to the support that we find in sharing. Even when we're not sure what difference it will make, may we continue to open our hearts to each other. May we continue to reach out to help. May we look for those ways to make a difference. And may we find solace and courage in those around us, in the breath we share, in the quiet wonder and mystery of a winter's day, and in our communities. Amen. Blessed, blessed be.
This is an excerpt from Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. Intentional adaptation is the heart of emergent strategy. How we live and grow and stay purposeful in the face of constant change actually does determine both the quality of our lives and the impact that we can have when we move into action together. Many of us respond to change with fear or see it as a crisis. Some of us anticipate change with an almost titillating sense of stress. We spend precious time thinking about what has changed that we didn't choose or can't control, and are thinking ahead to future stress. Often this is because we aren't clear or committed about our dream destination. So instead of moving towards anything in particular, we are in nonstop reaction. A first question to ask ourselves is, how do we practice increasing our ease with what is? Change happens. Change is definitely going to happen, no matter what we plan or expect or hope for or set in place. We will adapt to that change, or we will become irrelevant. But this is not about pure adaptation. I'm talking about the combination of adaptation with intention, wherein the orientation and movement towards life, towards longing, is made graceful in the act of adaptation. This is the process of changing while staying in touch with our deeper purpose and longing. But as much as I fangirl for change, I still struggle when something that I have planned to be just so changes. I fight until I am exhausted, and then I finally surrender to the inevitable. I have been working on listening for the opportunity. Often, this means I have to have a longer view. Time is so consistently illuminating. With time, the apparent crisis becomes a massive blessing. It is easy to think everything is a miracle during a moment of external joy, falling in love, welcoming new life into the world, celebrating a major accomplishment. Those moments when rightness flows through my body and I feel connected to the great way, force, energy that makes us all one. What is harder is to bring my miraculous perspective to grief, to injustice, to delayed travel, to broken technology, to conflict, to changes of plans, to Mercury retrograde, things that can be filed under bad day or bad life. Mindful adaptation, however, makes it possible to experience the miraculous more often, if not constantly.
So I love watching the TV show Nailed It. Is anybody with me? All right, I got a couple people. That's good. Do you know what I'm talking about? All right. So for those of you who don't know, Nailed It is a show that's been on for the last several years. It is a baking show where amateur bakers, that's folks like most of us gathered here, try to recreate cakes and donuts and other pastries made by professional bakers. I mean, these are the fancy things that you see pictures of on Pinterest, and the elaborate cakes that are that tall and have all the things on them. And so from there, hilarity ensues. It is hosted by an actress comedian, a professional baker, and a rotating guest who help these average home bakers and us understand and laugh about the mistakes that they are making. And that's a lot of why I love watching the show. The opportunity and the encouragement to engage with folks who are making wild mistakes under ridiculous time pressures as they make extravagant creations, and laughing about those mistakes. To engage with them with humility and wonder and laughter rather than with the frustration that would be so easy to access. And you know that when I say them, I'm talking about mistakes, right? Because who here hasn't been cooking or baking and made a mistake? Maybe even one that we see repeated on the show, and instead of laughing and learning, has instead said something that I won't say from this pulpit, and has gotten angry and frustrated. Now for me, as I talk about this, I'm remembering about frosting, about learning about frosting and putting it on a warm cake. And then, as you know, the frosting melted. Oops. Or when my older sister memorably mixed up baking soda and baking powder. And I learned something important about not just taste, but chemistry. Or when my ex-partner had helpfully gotten out the ingredients for baking and handed me the sugar, or the salt instead of the sugar, and I didn't catch the accidental substitution. And I could, of course, go on and on about my baking mistakes. I'm sure you could add a handful or maybe a bundle of them. Except that my point today is not, of course, to catalog my culinary mistakes, right? But rather to wander into the mystery of what happens when we engage with taking risks, making mistakes, and learning from them in different ways. Which is a lot harder than it sounds, right? As most of us know, and as Daisy the chick knows. Now, as some of you who have listened to me for a while also know, I love listening to the Hidden Brain podcast. Now, as someone who studied cognitive and social psychology as an undergrad, and then later worked on applying the lessons from cognitive and social psychology to environmental work, the Hidden Brain is right up my alley. And a few months ago, there were some episodes that got me thinking again about how we take risks, make mistakes, and can learn from them. I say again because, as a minister, I am often thinking about risks and mistakes and learning. In a couple of Hidden Brain episodes, psychiatrist Anna Lemke, whose work you can find in the bibliography for today's worship service, delves into the phenomena of compulsive consumption and addiction. Looking at our modern world, she delves into what happens when we have easy access to too much pleasure, to things like video games that we can play nonstop, including from the little computers that we call phones that we carry everywhere, sugary and salty snacks, gambling, mind-altering substances, and binge-watching TV shows. And yes, I appreciate the irony of bringing up that last one when I've just been talking about how much I love watching Nailed It. Dr. Lemke studies how having such easy access to too much pleasure actually alters our brains, how it changes how we experience pleasure and pain. Her and other scientists' research is showing that addictive and semi-addictive behaviors where we engage in too much pleasure seeking actually overstimulate the parts of our brains, our neurochemicals, that respond to pleasure. And the result is that we become more numb to pleasure and end up feeling pain in situations where we wouldn't have felt it before. And so, when we try to stop playing those video games or reading trashy novels, we end up not only not feeling pleasure because the pleasure-giving thing is ended, but we actually feel pain, even though nothing external is causing it, because of how our minds and our bodies have adjusted to constant stimulation. Let me repeat that. So over time, our minds and our bodies respond to constant stimulation by changing how they process things. And so when we try stopping, we end up not only not feeling pleasure because we're not doing that thing anymore, but we actually feel pain, even though nothing external is causing it. Now, some of the results of this can be things like not being able to feel as much pleasure in the mystery of a beautiful sunset, or the wonder of gathering with family and friends. And perhaps even feeling some pain in those moments because we're away from that thing that we have gotten used to, from the source of stimulation that has been giving us such a constant, easy, less complex flow of pleasure. I'm sure you can sense the loss there. The loss of connection to love, to wonder, to mystery, to things that enrich us and help us live deeper, fuller, more connected lives. So what do we do? Dr. Lemke and others' work into how to counteract this is showing that we can help our minds and our bodies readjust so that we can feel pleasure again and with more typical and sustainable levels of stimulation. One way to do that is, of course, taking breaks from the kinds of substances or products that give us that easy flow of pleasure. Another thing that helps is doing difficult or painful things that help our brains readjust. And this is something that I find perhaps even more fascinating than everything I have shared so far. Because what are examples of some of those difficult or painful things? These are things like meditating, engaging in challenging conversations, or learning and going on challenging hikes, or whatever the equivalent is for somebody's body and physical needs. And one of the keys is that someone is engaging with them mindfully, or with presence and attention. Does that sound like something that Adrienne Marie Brown was saying in our reading about how we live and grow and stay purposeful in the face of constant change? And even though she wasn't trying to set aside pleasure seeking, does that sound something like what Daisy learned about taking risks and learning from her mistakes? Which actually brings us to another Hidden Brain episode, where psychologist Lauren Eskris Winkler shared some research about learning from our mistakes. Dr. Eskris Winkler noted that we often ignore our failures because they're uncomfortable. Instead, we tend to over-focus our attention on what went well. And as a result, we lose the wealth of important information that would be available to us if we were to sit with and learn from our mistakes. Because there is often a lot more important that we can learn and grow from our mistakes than in our successes. Now, this is not to discount the importance of appreciative inquiry and positive psychology. As humans, we actually tend to over-focus on the negative, and thus, for growth, certainly do need to attend to the positive factors in our lives and build on them. And yet, when we can learn from our mistakes without veering over into shaming ourselves or perseverating on how bad we are, or judging ourselves that we should have done something different in the first place, there is so much that we can learn. However, it's very difficult to sit with our mistakes and to learn from them. The kids and I talked about some of the reasons for this earlier. For some reason, it's also often easier to judge or shame ourselves than it is to learn from our mistakes. Learning to live with and learn from our mistakes means increasing our ability to sit with discomfort. It means looking at the impacts of our actions and harm that we do honestly. It means knowing that we don't ever have all the information about any situation, let alone what our actions will mean for ourselves and others. It means giving ourselves feedback. It means learning from others. It means cultivating our kindness as well as our honesty. It means developing our humility. And as Reverend Kimberly Debus says, in community, it means working through problems rather than letting them fester or explode. It means continuing to work on ourselves, our emotional and spiritual maturity, with deep reflection. It means checking our assumptions and communicating, proceeding with love. It means carefully tending our systems and each other. In the passage that Emily read earlier, Adrienne Marie Brown talks about the difficulties and possible blessings of constant change. And she says, a first question to ask ourselves is, how do we practice increasing our ease with what is? And we might add, how do we practice increasing our ease with taking risks, with making mistakes, with learning from them? How do we find more equanimity, more ease, even more joy with that, with what is? We heard a few hints earlier in those difficult things. And while practicing ease with what is, rather than longing for what we wish were happening, might seem on the surface to be very different than practicing joy, these things really are not that different. Because there's a joy that appears when we do the deep work to be fully present with all of what is here now, with our inner shadows, with the things that aren't going the way that we want. Later on in Emergent Strategy, Adrienne Marie Brown continues, "There is such urgency in the multitude of crises we face that it can make it hard to remember that in fact it is urgency thinking, urgent, constant, unsustainable growth that got us to this point, and that our potential success lies in doing deep, slow, intentional work." And she reminds us that what we put our attention on grows. We have been growing otherness, borders, separateness, finding the places of healing and transformation, moving towards a world beyond enemies, is work that has to be done for our survival. And so, how do we practice increasing our ease with what is presently? How does that help us cultivate our capacity for adaptation to change and to hold adaptation with intention so that we can cultivate spaces of transformation? As I've been sitting with these questions and the research that I shared with you, a song that I love came to me. We've sung it here a couple times, and so please join me if you remember it. It goes, "We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love." I've often sung that thinking about the work that we do in community to create justice. But what if we also think about it as relating to our internal work or how we cultivate community? What if, in addition to justice work, the song is also inviting us to have the courage to enter into the places of shame and judgment and resistance to change within ourselves so that we can grow? What if one way of understanding the seeds of change is understanding that within each of us there is a sacred spark that is the origin of the inherent worthiness and dignity of every being? And what if that spark, our inherent worthiness and dignity, can give us courage to be present in the fieriness of risks and mistakes and learning and change? What if this song is reminding us that we need to do the deep, slow work of transformation within? That we can cultivate our inner sparks through challenging things like meditation and learning and conversations and sitting with tension? And what if, when we enter into the difficult places with courage and intentionality, we can find ourselves transformed? We can increase our ease with what is, our humility, our ability to laugh with and through our mistakes. What if it is the act of growing ourselves, of deepening our connections and our communities through the deep work that gives us the ability to be filled with joy? What if it is that mystery of that work that allows joy, love, hope, and faith to shine forth? What a journey that would be. What a journey this is. May we all find the courage to do the challenging work of rebalancing our hearts and minds and bodies and communities so that we may find more ease with what is. Take risks, learn from our mistakes, and create more love, hope, and faith. May we lead ourselves into the well. May we live in the mystery. May we grow the seeds of change. May we thrive. So may it be. Amen. And blessed, blessed be.
May what has been shared today help us more fully affirm our interconnection and live into love and justice. Immediately after the service, we gather in the fellowship hall for conversation and community. And now to close our service today, we will sing hymn number 1003. Please rise in body and spirit as you are able.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
As you go forth into the world this day and this week, may you go delving into the mystery, cultivating ease with what is, and building your ability to learn from our mistakes, and adapt to change. Go in peace, love, and justice, living love ever more fully and fiercely into this world. Amen. And blessed, blessed be.